Let me tell you something about men and these little texts they send. Now, I'm not talking about the long, heartfelt, Shakespeare-level messages. No. I'm talking about that one text that comes out of nowhere, like a little ninja in your phone just to let you know he's thinking about you. You know the one? You sitting there maybe sipping your coffee or scrolling through social media and ding, your phone lights up. You open it expecting maybe some serious news, maybe an important question, maybe something life-changing. And what do you get? Hey, or sometimes, what's up? And that's it. Just 3 letters or 5 if you're lucky. But let me tell you, behind those tiny little words is a hurricane of emotion he refuses to say out loud. That just checking in text is not random. That just checking in text is not random. No, ma'am. That text is him walking into your world, quiet as a whisper, trying not to scare you, trying not to overplay his hand, but also trying to make sure you know he's there. See, here's the thing about men. They are complicated creatures. And they have been taught in some strange society handbook that showing too much feeling is a weakness. So instead of saying, I miss you, I think about you constantly, and life feels empty without hearing you laugh, he sends, hey, at 2:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. That's how subtle it is. That's how quiet it is. That's how men try to sneak their feelings into your life without ever opening the floodgates. And if you're not paying attention, if you just glance at it and say, oh, okay, that's nothing, you're gonna miss the whole language he's speaking. Now, don't get me wrong, women, sometimes we overthink these things. We read into every emoji, every period, every little delay in the reply, and men just sit there wondering why it takes us an hour to answer a text that literally just says, hey. But when it's that, hey, coming at you from him, you better know something is happening. He's thinking about you. He's pausing in his day, stopping whatever he's doing, maybe even putting down the remote of the game controller and deciding to send a little piece of himself to your phone. And that right there, that's a signal. That's a signal louder than any words he's too afraid to say. Let's talk about timing for a second, because timing is everything. If he sends you that just checking in text in the middle of the day, that's different than when he sends it late at night. Late at night, y'all. Late at night is prime real estate for feelings. That's when people get real. That's when the heart starts whispering and logic takes a back seat. If he's texting you late and it's not something urgent about work, not something about needing a ride or asking a favor, it's because you've been on his mind. That little ping from him is him admitting in the most subtle way possible that he missed you. That's him saying, I wanted to hear from you and I didn't want to seem too much, so I'll just send this. And ladies, if you catch that, you know exactly what he's doing, even if he hasn't said it out loud. And here's the beautiful thing about these little texts. They're small, but they're strategic. Men know, whether consciously or subconsciously, that if they come in too strong, too heavy, you might get scared off. So instead of saying all the things he's feeling, he sends a tiny nudge, a little hello that carries all the weight of his missing you. It's like sending a smoke signal, except it comes in the form of a notification. You open it, and if you're paying attention, you can read between the lines. You can hear the quiet longing, the unspoken words, the little heartbeat behind those letters. Now I want you to imagine something. You're going about your day, your phone buzzes, and you see his name. Maybe you smile a little. Maybe your stomach flips. Maybe you feel a little spark of excitement because you know, even if he hasn't said it in plain words, he's thinking of you. That's what I'm talking about. That's the power of the random check-in. It's small, but it's mighty. It's quiet, but it screams volumes if you know how to listen. And the funny part is, he might never say, I sent this because I miss you. No, he'll never say it. He'll let that little text do the talking. That's the beauty of it. That's the subtle genius in the way men communicate. They let actions, tiny, quiet actions, speak louder than any confession ever could. But here's the kicker. The just checking in text can also be playful. Sometimes he's not even sure he wants to admit he misses you fully, so he sends a random little note just to see how you respond. It's like testing the waters without jumping in head first. He's sending little feelers, little ripples into your world, hoping you'll react. And that reaction, that's how he measures how much he can show next time. He's learning quietly, secretly, without ever saying a word, how much you care, how much you notice, and whether he can let himself be vulnerable around you. And women, don't underestimate that. That little text is a window into his heart. That tiny, seemingly insignificant, hey, can carry more weight than a whole paragraph of words from someone else. Because it's not just words, it's courage hidden behind a keyboard. It's longing, disguised as casual conversation. It's missing you, wrapped up in 3 letters, hoping you'll catch the signal. And if you do, if you notice it, if you respond with a little warmth, a little acknowledgement, you've just opened the door to a world he's been too cautious to enter otherwise. Now, don't get me wrong. Not every random text is a deep declaration of emotion. Sometimes it really is just, hey, what's up? But here's the thing. When it comes from him, when it's out of the blue, when it's not tied to anything else, you have to consider the possibility that it's more than casual. You have to consider that maybe, just maybe, he's feeling a little empty without hearing from you. Maybe he's remembering something funny you said, or maybe he's replaying a moment in his head when you laughed and thinking, I need to let her know I'm still here. That's what makes these texts so powerful. They're ordinary, but they're extraordinary depending on how you read them. And the truth is, ladies, men will rarely come out and just say, I miss you. Too vulnerable, too direct, too scary. So they hide behind this random text, this casual ping, this tiny nudge. And if you're wise, you'll recognize it for what it is. You'll see the effort. You'll see the courage. You'll see the missing you energy wrapped up in a small digital envelope delivered right to your hands. That's the silent language of men. That's the subtle art of letting you know they care without ever having to say it outright. That's why the just checking in text is so important. That's why you pay attention. That's why you notice the little things. Because sometimes those little things carry the loudest messages. Now let me talk to you about something I like, to call the memory drop. Oh yes, the memory drop. This is a classic move. And if you've been paying attention, you've definitely felt it. You're going about your day, minding your own business, maybe thinking everything's normal, and then out of nowhere he says something, or texts something, or even brings it up in conversation that makes you stop and go, wait a minute, how did he even remember that? That's the memory drop. And let me tell you, ladies, this is one of the sneakiest ways a man lets you know he's been thinking about you without ever saying the words, I miss you. It's subtle, but oh, it hits hard. Here's how it works. Maybe a few weeks ago, you two went out to that little cafe downtown. You know, the one with the dim lights and the music that makes you feel like you're in a movie. You laughed about something silly, maybe spilled your coffee, maybe he accidentally knocked over his cup, whatever it was. And then, months later, just out of the blue, he brings it up. He doesn't even have to say, I remember that day because I miss it. No, no, no. He just casually drops it in the conversation. Hey, remember that time at that cafe when your coffee almost ruined my shirt? And you stop for a second because now your mind is rewinding to that exact moment. You're reliving it, and suddenly you realize he hasn't forgotten. He hasn't forgotten a single detail. That memory, that moment you thought was just another ordinary day, has been living in his head, tucked away like a little treasure. And that, my friends, is him telling you without saying it, he misses you. See, men show their feelings differently. They might not write sonnets or post long paragraphs online about how much they care, but they remember the little things. And when he drops a memory, it's not random, it's intentional. He wants to see your reaction. He wants to know if that memory still makes you smile, still makes your heart skip a beat, still reminds you of him. It's like a test, but not a test you fail. It's a test you pass if you react naturally, if you laugh, if you reminisce, if you show that you notice and you reminisce, and you show that you notice and you remember too. And here's the beautiful part. He's not just dropping memories to be nostalgic. No, no, no. He's dropping memories because in those memories, he still sees you. In those moments, he still feels you. And that right there is him telling you he misses your presence, even if he never says it out loud. Now, let's get real. Sometimes a man will drop a memory as a way to reach back into the past and connect with you again. Maybe things have been distant. Maybe you haven't talked as much lately. And suddenly, here he is, mentioning something that happened months ago, something that felt insignificant to you at the time. But to him, it was monumental. That's how the memory drop works. It's a quiet way to reopen a door that may have closed a little, a door that leads back to your shared moments, your laughter, your inside jokes. When he does this, he's saying, I remember the good times. I want more of them. And maybe, just maybe, I miss having those moments with you. And women, here's the thing. You've got to catch it. You've got to recognize when he's doing it. Because if you just nod or brush it off, you're missing the language he's speaking. That memory drop is a conversation starter, but it's also a confession disguised as a casual remark. It's him reaching into the past to remind you and himself of the bond you share. And sometimes if he's bold enough, he might even drop a memory from way back, something years old, something he's held onto in his mind. And suddenly you realize, wow, he really hasn't forgotten me. And that realization, that's powerful. That hits right in the chest, right where the heart keeps the score. If who cares and who doesn't? Here's another thing about memory drops. They often come with a touch of humor. Men know that humor is a safe way to bridge the gap between emotion and vulnerability. So he might make a joke about a time you argued over which movie to watch, or about a time you embarrassed yourself in front of a waiter. He's laughing, you're laughing, but underneath it all, there's a little truth being spoken. He misses the way your laugh sounds when you're genuinely happy. He misses the way you roll your eyes at him. He misses the little quirks that make you you. And instead of saying, I miss all that about you, he just drops a memory, sits back, and watches your reaction. Now, let me tell you why this works so well. Memory drops bypass all the fear, all the awkwardness, all the pride men sometimes feel about being too emotional. Instead of putting themselves out there and risking rejection, they use memories, the safe zone of shared experience, as a bridge. And the beauty of it is, you respond naturally. You laugh, you smile, you engage, and suddenly he feels like he's back in your world, even if just for a moment. That little moment, that's him feeling close to you again. That's him getting a little reminder of why he misses you in the first place. And here's the kicker. Memory drops can be incredibly specific. He doesn't just say, remember that time we went out? No. He'll say, remember that time we were at the park and that dog ran up and scared you? Or, remember when we tried that weird sushi place and you wouldn't touch the octopus? He remembers details because he was paying attention when it mattered. And if he's remembering the details, then you better know he's remembering you. That's the message behind it. That's the silent signal that you've been on his mind. And let's not forget the emotional pull of a memory drop. When he brings up something that made you both laugh, something that made your heart flutter, something that made you feel alive, it's like he's transporting you back to that moment together. And in that transportation, there's a subtle longing. He's letting you feel what he feels without saying a word. He's letting you experience a little piece of the past to remind both of you that the connection is still alive. That's why the memory drop is so powerful. It's a time machine, a love whisper, a silent signal, all rolled into one. And ladies, you got to recognize it for what it is. That little mention, that little recollection, that tiny spark of shared history is him telling you in his own quiet, manly way that he misses you, that he's thinking about the times you shared, that he wants to feel that closeness again. And if you respond with warmth, with acknowledgement, with a little shared laughter, you're opening the door for him to show more, to reveal more, to reconnect in ways he might have been too shy to attempt before. Now let's talk about something that is sneaky quiet and yet louder than a drum when you know how to read it. I'm talking about what I like to call the social media shadow. Oh yes, the social media shadow. You know what I'm talking about, ladies. That little digital presence that lingers in the background, quietly letting you know that he's paying attention. You might not notice it at first because it's subtle, it's low-key, and it's done with the precision of someone who wants to stay under the radar. But when you catch it, oh, you better believe it. That's him missing you. That's him thinking about you without ever saying it. Let me paint you a picture. You're scrolling through your feed, minding your own business, maybe laughing at a funny meme or looking at a friend's vacation pictures, and then you notice it. He's there, not commenting, not posting, just quiet liking your photos, watching your stories, maybe even opening your reels over and over, and you think, that's interesting. But it's more than interesting. That's him. That's him making sure he's still in your world, even if he's not in your life at the moment. That little shadow presence is a silent digital heartbeat, a subtle whisper that says, I see you, I notice you. You're still on my mind. See, this is how men operate in the modern world. They're not always going to call. They're not always going to text with long, emotional confessions. No. They're going to do it quietly from behind the screen where they can observe, where they can be part of your world without making themselves too vulnerable. And the social media shadow is perfect for this because it allows them to exist in your life without the risk of rejection, without the pressure of conversation, without the fear of sounding too emotional. It's his way of saying, I miss you, I notice you, I care about you, without having to actually say the words. Now, don't get me wrong, women, this isn't some casual, absent-minded behavior. This is intentional. He's choosing to engage, even if it's small, even if it's behind the scenes. He's choosing to make sure that he's still part of your day, even if only digitally. And when you start to notice these patterns, the likes, the views, the little interactions, oh, honey, you better know what's happening. He's signaling to you quietly, subtly, consistently, that he's thinking about you, that he hasn't forgotten you, that even though he's not physically there, his mind and heart are still in your orbit. And here's the thing about the social media shadow. It's also a form of testing the waters. Men, I tell you, they're careful creatures when it comes to their feelings. They don't want to risk being too vulnerable too soon. So instead of aching out with words, they reach out with presence. They watch, they observe, they take note of your mood, your reactions, your energy, and they gauge how much they can step forward. And all the while, you might be completely unaware that he's doing it. You might think it's just coincidence that he's always around in the background. But oh no, ladies, that is no coincidence. That is a silent, intentional, emotionally loaded presence, and it speaks volumes if you know how to read it. And let's talk about the subtlety of it for a second. The beauty of the social media shadow is that it's quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't make a scene. It's digital equivalent of standing outside your window and watching, making sure you're okay, making sure you're smiling, making sure you're happy. But instead of knocking and announcing himself, he's just there, observing, appreciating, missing you without saying it. And if you catch on, if you notice that little pattern, if you understand the language, you realize that he's trying to be present without imposing, trying to be part of your world without overstepping, trying to be part of your world without overstepping, and trying to tell you in his own way that you matter to him. Now, I want you to think about the timing of these shadows. It's not random. Maybe he's quiet during the day. Maybe he pops up late at night, checking your stories, engaging with your posts, seeing what you're up to. That's no accident. That's a man thinking about you when the world is quiet, when distractions fade away, when he can focus on you for a few moments. Late night attention is prime real estate for missing someone, because that's when feelings sneak in, when logic takes a backseat and the heart speaks up. And the social media shadow is his way of saying, I miss you. I'm thinking of you. I want to be connected without ever having to say it out loud. And here's the genius part of he's learning about you subtly without ever asking. By observing what you post, what you like, what makes you laugh, what makes you pause, he's gathering intel on what makes you happy, what matters to you, what resonates with your soul. And all the while, he's leaving breadcrumbs of himself in your digital world, little likes, little views, little hints that he's still there. And if you notice it, if you respond in some small way, you're engaging in this silent dance with him, acknowledging his presence, acknowledging his attention, acknowledging the fact that he's missing you without ever having to say it. Now, ladies, let's be real. Not every like, not every view, not every comment is loaded with hidden meaning. Some of it is casual, some of it is habitual, some of it is nothing at all. But the difference with the social media shadow is the pattern. It's consistent, it's intentional, it's quiet, but it's there. It's him being present in your life, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, digitally. And that's why this is so powerful. Because in today's world, where attention is currency, a man who makes the effort to be there, even in silence, is saying something powerful. He's saying, I care, I've noticed, I miss you. And if you're wise, you'll see it for what it is. And here's the thing, this shadowing behavior also shows his restraint. Because let's be honest, he could text you, call you, engage directly, and maybe even scare himself by showing too much emotion too soon. But he doesn't. He stays in the shadows, watching, waiting, feeling, missing, letting his actions speak for him in a way that's quiet but consistent. That's the art of subtlety. That's the quiet power of a man who misses you but knows the right way to show it without overdoing it, without scaring you, without risking too much. And women, that's what makes the social media shadow so effective. It's quiet, it's subtle, it's strategic, and it's loaded with meaning if you know how to read it. It's him missing you without saying it. It's him being present without being intrusive. It's him showing care, attention, and interest in ways that are clever, understated, and intentional. And if you catch on, if you recognize the patterns, if you understand the language, you'll realize that he's still there, still invested, still thinking about you, still missing you in the quietest, most effective way possible. Now let's talk about something that's smooth, it's quiet, and it's one of the most telling signs a man misses you. I call it the subtle helper. Oh yes, the subtle helper. This is the kind of thing that flies under most people's radar. But if you pay attention, you'll see exactly what's happening. It's not the big, flashy gestures, the over-the-top displays that scream for attention. No. The subtle helper is small, thoughtful, precise, and it says more than 100 "I miss you" texts ever could. It's his way of showing that he cares, that he's thinking of you, and that he wants to be part of your life, even in the smallest ways. Here's how it works. Maybe you're struggling with something. Maybe it's a project at work. Maybe it's a little life problem. Maybe it's something you didn't even realize needed attention. And out of nowhere, he steps in. He doesn't make a big announcement. He doesn't tell the world that he's helping you. No, he does it quietly, efficiently, and in a way that makes you notice, but not too obviously. He might send you a helpful link, offer a tip, drop by with a little favor, or even just make a suggestion that saves you time or stress. And when he does this, he's not just being nice. He's leaving breadcrumbs of his presence in your life. He's saying, "I'm here. I'm thinking about you. I want to make things easier for you." And ladies, if you recognize it, you know exactly what that means. See, men are clever about the ways they express missing someone. Not all of them are going to sit down and write a poem or send a long, heartfelt text or make a big scene about their feelings. Some of them, the thoughtful ones, the ones who care deeply, they use actions. And the subtle helper is one of the most effective actions out there. It's quiet, it's intentional, and it's loaded with meaning if you know how to read it. He's helping you without you asking. He's anticipating your needs without demanding attention. And he's letting you know in a very manly, low-key way that he misses being part of your world. Now, let me give you an example. Maybe you mentioned in passing that your car is acting up, or you've got a tough week coming up at work, or you've been stressed about something personal. And next thing you know, he's there. He's offering advice. He's helping you with resources. He's showing up in ways you didn't expect. And when he does this, he's doing more than just being helpful. He's saying, "I notice what you're going through. I care enough to step in and make it better. I'm thinking about you even when you're not around." That's subtle. That's quiet, but it's powerful. That's him missing you, showing up in ways that only someone who cares deeply would take the time to do. And ladies, you got to pay attention to the little things, because a subtle helper is rarely about the grand gestures. It's about the small moments that show he's thinking about you. Maybe he remembers your favorite coffee order and surprises you with it. Maybe he notices your frustration and sends you a little encouragement. Maybe he sees an opportunity to make your life easier and quietly takes care of it. These are not random acts of kindness. These are carefully calculated signs that he's present in your realm. even when he's not physically there. That's the essence of the subtle helper, quiet, thoughtful, intentional, and deeply meaningful. And here's why this works so well. Men know that showing too much emotion too soon can be scary. So instead of coming out and saying, I miss you, I want to be there for you, they choose actions over words. They choose to help, to support, to show up in ways that demonstrate care without forcing a confession. And when they do it consistently, when it becomes a pattern, it's a signal that cannot be ignored. It's him expressing longing and affection without ever having to articulate it. And if you notice it, if you respond in kind, if you appreciate it, you're acknowledging his feelings without making it awkward, without putting pressure, without demanding words. That's why the subtle helper is so effective. Now let's talk about timing. The subtle helper often comes at moments when you need it most, even if you didn't ask for it. That's no accident. He's paying attention. He's remembering the little things you have mentioned. He's noticing your struggles, your needs, your moments of stress, and he's finding ways to be there quietly behind the scenes to support you. That's missing you in action. That's showing care in a way that's understated but deeply meaningful. And when you see it, when you recognize it, you realize that he's still invested, still present, still thinking about you in ways that matter. And ladies, here's the thing about the subtle helper. Sometimes it's not even about you directly. Sometimes it's about your world, your life, your happiness. He might do something that indirectly makes your life easier, smoother, or happier. Maybe he helps someone close to you knowing it affects you. Maybe he steps in somewhere you didn't expect. Maybe he even remembers a small preference or a tiny detail about your routine and adjusts his actions accordingly. That's subtlety at its finest. That's a silent signal that he's still thinking about you, still cares, still misses having an impact on your life. And let's not forget consistency. The subtle helper isn't just a one-time thing, it's a pattern. It's repeated over time. He doesn't do it for recognition. He doesn't do it for applause. He doesn't do it for credit. He doesn't do it for credit. He does it because he genuinely cares, because he genuinely misses the connection he has with you, because he wants to be a presence in your life, even if it's behind the scenes. That's the mark of a man who truly values you, who truly misses you, who expresses his feelings in ways that aren't loud, but are profoundly impactful. And here's the magic part. You notice it, you appreciate it, you respond in ways that matter, and suddenly the door is open. You don't have to coax him into saying he misses you. You don't have to drag it out of him. His actions have already spoken. He's already expressed what he feels through the little things he does. And if you're wise enough to recognize it, to acknowledge it, to meet it with appreciation, then you're entering a space where his feelings are validated without ever needing to be forced into words. I don't care. That's the power of the subtle helper. That's the language of men who miss you, expressed quietly, thoughtfully, and consistently. And it's more powerful than any declaration ever could.